In America, we say we recognize all our heroes and leaders, but a certain group of revolutionaries seems to be forgotten. In 1791, 4 years after the beginning of the French Revolution, another revolution from the French colonies began. The Haitian Revolution took place in Saint Dominique, today known as Haiti. During the 1790s, the population of Saint Dominique was primarily slaves, 500,000 of them from Africa, 32,000 white French, and 28,000 free black or mulatto. But how did a population of slaves so severely eclipse the amount of free and white people? Well, back in 1493, the Spanish arrived. At this time, the island was full of native people isolated from the progression of European society. What were the Spanish doing there? They were enslaving natives to mine for gold and silver. But the Spanish left the island in 1514. After their successful hijack and ransack, killing and oppressing the native people, and extracting the minerals, smallpox purged whatever was left, leaving only a small number of natives. Spanish colonists also introduced foreign animals like cows and pigs and horses into the ecosystem. French arrived some years later, taking advantage of the free cash crop sugarcane left behind by the Spanish, who later acknowledged the conquering of the island and peacefully offered the western third of the island to France in 1697, who named their portion Saint Dominique. The French introduced their own cash crop in 1715, coffee. The slaves worked on plantations that made mostly sugar, producing 40% of the sugar and 60% of the coffee imported into Europe, but half of the world's coffee by 1788. What's happening in Europe though? Well, in 1776, England had just lost all of the colonies it established in America due to a revolution. In France, England's neighbor had just suffered its first hindrance, the French Revolution, which began on July 14, 1789. This was a rebellion against the noblemen from the working class, which vastly outnumbered the opposition. 2 years later, these two events would spark the first battle in Saint Dominique, a slave rebellion, which ensued August 1791. The slaves would free other slaves and then burn down the plantations. France thought they'd be able to subdue the first signs of rebellion by sending thousands of troops. This did not work. So in 1792, France declared that all people of color in the French colonies were free, but this did not include slaves. In 1793, Haitians sided with the Spanish side of the island to kick the English out. This successfully occurred in 1798, and Haiti formed a peace treaty with England and the United States. But back in 1794, Pavril, a French general, declared slaves that fought against the rebels were free. However, the other general, official title civil commissioner, Lecquier Félix Sontenox, whom France had stationed on the island, would abolish slavery for the slaves on said island, which was later ratified by the French National Convention in 1794. He would later be banished in 1797 by the northern leader for being two-faced. But this was a partial success at freeing all the slaves in French territories, including Saint Dominique. Regardless, an ex-slave and new military leader of the northern side of the island, Toussaint Louverture, declared that the war would still go on. In the same year, Toussaint Louverture became the leader of the rebels. The ultimate goal of the revolution was to expel the French. And in the next 5 years, battles were fought to free the majority of the slaves on the island and intimidate the French. But in 1799, the War of Knives broke out. It was a civil war between Toussaint, the leader of the northern half of Haiti, and André Rigaud, a mulatto, and the leader of the southern half of the island. This war, though brief, led to the total leadership of Toussaint after Rigaud fled, and a purge of the remaining mulattoes began, led by Jean-Jacques Dessalines, Toussaint's right-hand man. In 1800, a year and some months later, after the treaty between Haiti and Britain, Napoleon, the current dictator of France, was pressured to reclaim Haiti and pay its new war debt. Despite having open ports, the economic boost they received from Haiti was no longer supplying them since the war. So Napoleon takes this into his own hands. He's been done with the whole ordeal and sends troops to assure Toussaint's position and declares that all colonies of France now have separate governments, not led by the same laws France has. In 1801, Toussaint battled the Spanish side of the island, abolishing slavery on the entirety of it, and in the process gained control. Once freed, it was, stating, quote, all individuals be admitted to all public functions depending on their merit and without regard to race or color. All individuals born in the colony were to be equal, free, and citizens of France. Toussaint's final goal in the Haitian Revolution was to never have his island plagued by slavery again. But in a singular, hasty action, he ended the trust he shared between his people. Toussaint would capture and execute Moise, the leader of a small rebellion of his leadership. In 1802, the year of betrayal began, with Charles Leclerc's invasion of the island. Of course, he was French, but he wasn't heartless. Even though the battle was skewed heavily in Toussaint's favor, the mistrust of his people from the previous year led to his demise, with his right-hand man, Dessalines, and his left hand, Christophe, sided with Leclerc. Toussaint wanted to continue his fight, but Leclerc offered a promise to not let the island fall into the toils of slavery once more. Toussaint Louverture was executed in France the next year. Leclerc would take charge of the island, but his order was to restart slavery. Thus, the spark of rebellion would begin once again. Outnumbered and suffering sickness, the French forces were slaughtered, including Leclerc. France attempts one last movement to secure Haiti with another general, Rochambeau, but in the Battle of Vertières, he is killed along with his troops in 1804. This marked their freedom as an independent black republic, though the United States would only recognize their freedom in 1862. The effects of the Haitian Revolution are very important here, as they weakened France so much they had to sell the Louisiana territory owned in America, including most of the Midwest. Montana, North Dakota, Minnesota, Wyoming, South Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa, Colorado, Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, and parts of New Mexico and Texas. European slave trade also ended thanks to Toussaint's influence, ingraining his feats in the minds of whites, mulattoes, and blacks in Europe. Haiti would also help the independence of other Spanish countries, Venezuela, Colombia, Peru, Chile, and modern Bolivia. But Haiti did not go unpunished for their uprising and owed 150 million francs to the French, which was ratified by the United States, and its debt was finally paid off in 1947. Today, Haiti is suffering, and us Americans who are indebted to the Haitians for a third of the country should do more to recognize their feats and bravery. I believe the Haitian Revolution should be just as idealized as the American Revolution and told properly. This has been Unshackled by Daniel Moody.